We got a treat on Sunday Night Football. Micah Parsons makes his return to Dallas for the first time since that blockbuster trade back in August. We got to see a bunch of offensive fireworks, and this all led to a back and forth affair in the fourth quarter where we got to see the second highest tie in NFL history. This game surprised me with especially how well Dallas operated offensively. Dak was in command of the offense despite the absence of CeeDee Lamb, as he rallied his team back from a 13-0 deficit with a few minutes left in the first half. But once their special teams blocked an extra point and took it back for their first 2 points of the game, this seemed to get some juice flowing on the Dallas sideline. Their offense finally woke up as they cut into the lead to make it a 4-point game with just 45 seconds left in the half. The Packers had an opportunity to maybe add on a few more points, but with 45 seconds left, there's not really much you can do, and I felt they got a little bit greedy, and as a result, Jordan Love ended up fumbling and Dallas recovered. Next play, Dallas makes the Packers pay as Dak found George Pickens, leading to the Cowboys taking a surprising 16-13 halftime lead. And this is crazy considering that the Packers were an extra point away from making it a 14-0 game, 2 full touchdowns, and momentum is on your side, but one play kind of opens up Pandora's box, and next thing you know, Dallas is actually the team with the lead heading into halftime. After a Dallas punt to start the second half, each team would go on to score for the next 9 possessions, including overtime. The Packers seized the lead late as Jordan Love found Romeo Doubs for their 3rd score of the night. But Dak and the Cowboys wouldn't go away quietly, as Dak was able to find George Pickens for the go-ahead score with just 43 seconds left. However, Green Bay was able to go down the field and kick a field goal to send this game into overtime. After getting run over for essentially the entire second half, Micah finally made an impact with a touchdown-saving sack. If it wasn't thanks to Parsons, Dak would have been able to stroll in for the go-ahead score. Green Bay got possession back with under 5 minutes left and seemed poised for the go-ahead score, but bogged down in the red zone as Jordan Love and the offense looked disjointed, as there was a situation where we saw exceptionally poor clock management that nearly cost the Green Bay the game. After Green Bay called their final timeout with 28 ticks left in overtime, Jordan Love threw a dump-off pass which resulted in a loss of yardage, but more importantly, precious time was ticking off the clock, leading to a mad scramble to get the snap off and heaving the ball towards the end zone, which would have been for the game-winning score. But in that whole process, the snap went off with about 9 or 8 seconds left, and thank goodness for the Packers' sake that 1 second was left on the clock as the ball hit the ground, with them having a chance to send McManus out for the game-tying field goal. McManus is able to convert the field goal, and the Packers have to settle for a 40-40 tie, which ended up being the second highest tie in NFL history. Main takeaways from this game is that the Cowboys offense can certainly keep them in games, and in certain scenarios, even win them. I was very impressed with how Dak Prescott played. He carved up the Packers defense for over 300 yards and 4 total touchdowns, despite the absence of CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens absolutely proved that he can step into being a number 1 receiver, as he dominated his matchup against the Green Bay Packers for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. After 4 weeks, I'm also impressed with how Brian Schottenheimer is leading the Dallas Cowboys. Despite a fairly limited roster, he called a great game, hung tough with the team that is dubbed a Super Bowl contender, and despite a banged up offensive line, he did a good job in keeping Dak upright and keeping Micah Parsons from wrecking the game. Yes, we all know that their defense is still very porous, but on this particular night, their offense was able to at least counter their continuous poor defensive performance. With the Packers side of things, the bye week couldn't come at a more perfect time. After 2 dominant wins at home, they have yet to put together a complete game, and it's more concerning that they have had some struggles on the road. Against the Cleveland Browns, they managed to muster just 10 points, as Jordan Love threw a critical interception, leading to the Browns rallying from 10 points down with less than 5 minutes remaining to score 13 unanswered points and escape with a win. I understand the Browns defense is one of the best in the league, but considering all the options that the Packers did have at their disposal, I thought the Packers could definitely put up more than 10 points. Against the Dallas Cowboys, I thought their defense played really well for most of the first half, but once that dam broke when Jordan Love fumbled just before halftime, momentum shift entirely Dallas's way. For Jordan Love specifically, we get to see the highs and lows of a young quarterback. So far, it's been 3 years of him as Green Bay's starter. If you look at the stat sheet, he had a pretty good game, over 330 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, but that inopportune timing of the fumble, I thought really, like I said earlier, opened up Pandora's box and gave momentum back to Dallas when you had a chance to put a stranglehold on Dallas on the road just before halftime. I thought the last 2 minutes of overtime were very poorly managed by head coach Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. I don't understand why you elect to go for a screenplay when there's not really much downfield and you could just dirt the ball and preserve time. Time is the biggest priority, and on that very play, it went for a loss of yardage, which makes it even worse. In that whole mad scramble when there was precious seconds ticking off the clock, I don't really understand why you elect for a screenplay when there's not much downfield and the biggest priority is trying to preserve clock for the worst case scenario to let McManus kick the field goal to settle for the tie. When you're out of timeouts, every play has to be towards the sidelines or towards the end zone. And that screenplay had nothing working downfield, and it was simply better just to dirt the ball and live to fight for another down. All these decisions have to be quick, decisive, and also be precise. And I thought the Packers in that particular sequence were none of those things in the last 30 seconds, and the result was nearly catastrophic. Could you imagine if that extra second wasn't there on the clock and it ended up with the Packers losing as a result of this very chaotic mad scramble in the last 30 seconds? That would have been a devastating loss considering it was a nationally televised game and you're heading into the bye week with a very sour taste in your mouth. I thought that very irresponsible, and I understand that Jordan Love has yet to reach his prime. I get that he's a developing quarterback. He's in year 3 as the Packers starter, but decision making, pocket awareness, and better in-game management are certainly things that he has to work on if the Packers want to make the Super Bowl. Flipping it to the Packers defense, this was particularly concerning for the Packers defense as they began the season by stifling the Lions and Commanders, both who were playoff teams last year. They still held the Browns to just 13 points. But in this particular game against the Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay allowed a season-high 40 points and a season-high 436 yards, as Dak Prescott pecked away in the passing game, rarely facing any pressure until late in the ball game. Considering Dallas was also without their all-world wideout CeeDee Lamb and 2 starting offensive linemen, this was a massive missed opportunity for Micah Parsons and the Green Bay Packers defense, where they should have dominated the Cowboys, but for whatever reason, they could not get any pressure and also contain George Pickens for much of the night. I will give Micah Parsons some credit here. Despite battling through that back injury that we've known since training camp, I thought that he did get a lot of pressure despite facing a lot of double teams. He led the team with a game high of 7 pressures, 3 tackles, 3 quarterback hits, and had Green Bay's only sack all evening. I understand that every unit can have an off game, but after 3 weeks of imposing tone-setting performances, to see Dak carve up this Packers defense could be a troubling indication of more problems to come in the future.